All right. Always be a white belt. This is a phrase that I learned from, I think I heard it first from Zach Evanesh. And it is something that totally has stuck with me. And I continuously am learning it in everything that I do. And I first attributed it to fitness, but then I've learned that with my kids or just actually with most things that I know, that the idea of being a white belt is something that keeps you continuously learning. And often if I don't have this mindset, it is holding me back from my potential. And so today, do that but better. We are talking about always being a white belt. This is episode 10. I'm Zach. He's Eric. Eric, how you doing today?
Doing great. Ready to talk about not knowing.
Yes. And actually, as we're doing this, realizing how much of a white belt I am at social media and just technology in general, having a horrible time trying to get this thing going today.
We are
Eric,
two white belts in that area for sure.
for sure. Eric, it is snowing today.
Yesterday we got about 6 inches.
Get out of here.
Yep.
Huh. Well, all we have is just wet snow.
Yeah.
But we are
It's all
running today.
melting now.
What's that?
It's all melting now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Eric, we just got done with the quarterfinals. Well, we did it last week. We, speaking of being a white belt, we had technical difficulties last week, so we weren't here. But how was your experience?
It was a lot of fun. That's for sure. Because, like we're talking about, it pushed me to points that I hadn't really been for a long time.
Yeah.
I for sure had like mild rhabdo after the GHDs.
Did you really?
I was in so much pain. So that's something to work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. We had kind of talked about this before, but that, most open workouts are like a workout that might easily show up in any CrossFit gym's programming. And the quarterfinal workouts were like the next step. They were definitely more challenging, heavier weight. So yeah, it was fun to have that boundary pushed where like I can go into the open and be like, I know I can do this workout. I might not finish some of them because the time frames are super short, but like I know that I can do this, no problem. All the movements, all the weights will be fine. But the quarterfinals, it was like, okay, I'm gonna have to work. Like now I have a target to work toward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt the same way, going into the weight on the snatch. I hadn't really done that in quite a long time. And we haven't, so I wasn't really nervous about climbing the rope because I feel that I can always climb the rope. But doing a bunch of reps, I was like, oh crap, I haven't done this in like a year because we just haven't been sharing the ropes, things like that. GHDs. Luckily, I had been, I just bit my tongue. I had been doing just out of trying to stay active. I've been doing 3 sets of 10 a day. So I do 10 GHDs, 10 back extensions. And so I wasn't really worried about those. Obviously, I had to break them up and all that. Pistols was another one that lots of times, if it's a workout, I might do a step up. I might do some kind of like a reverse lunge or something like that because I don't really care if I do a pistol or not. But again, it threw you under the bus and said, what do you got? Because there's no modifying, there's no anything like that. And like you said, in the open, I wasn't nervous that I wasn't going to be able to do a movement or a weight or something like that. But now it totally changes your perspective and it puts you out of your comfort zone, which I think that this is a lot of the mindset that we're talking about with that be a white belt. You know, and so if anybody has never heard this before, when you say like always be a white belt, think of martial arts. And in martial arts, the newest person is the white belt. Everybody who walks in gets the white belt, and then you start moving up. And eventually you're working towards a black belt. And the cool thing is that, you know, when you get that black belt, you might immediately think, I've done it. I know everything now and I'm a master. But you can always tell who the newest white or the newest black belt is because it's crisp, it's dark, it's clean. You know, in different martial arts, there might be stripes because you are second degree or third degree or whatever it is. But that black belt who's had it for years and they still are using it, it's going to be faded. It's going to be torn. And you go, oh my goodness. And actually it starts to look like it's turning white again. So now it's a little bit gray. And the thing is that so often I think that as adults, we like, whether it's just that we're an adult or we have a degree or we have a certification, you go, I know. And lots of times it shuts off our learning and we're stuck into what we know instead of exploring. Does that make any sense?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I even just in CrossFit, like starting in CrossFit, right? Read all the articles, watch all the videos. And then it was like, why does anyone do anything else? Idiots. You're doing everything wrong because you aren't following CrossFit.com.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I totally remember because especially with CrossFit, especially as it was coming out, it was very focused towards complex movements where you're moving multiple joints. So squatting, deadlifting, because you're moving ankle, knee, and hips together, and you know, like shoulder presses and things like that. But people were kicking people out of their gym because they were doing bicep curls.
Yeah.
And it was because we had this, hey, this is better and I know better. And so if you're not on the same page, then get out. And really, actually, you look at so many things that have exploded in CrossFit, and you went from, hey, you should only be doing Metcons to, hey, there's CrossFit powerlifting, there's CrossFit weightlifting, there's strongman. Now you got Marcus Philly with functional bodybuilding. And if you would stay in that this is the only thing, then you wouldn't have the room for all the growth that has happened in the fitness world because of CrossFit and being open to other things.
Yeah. And I mean, the irony is hilarious that CrossFit is a blend of all of these different things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's value in gymnastics and powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting and running and endurance, and put it all together. And then once it's all put together, be like, no, there's no value in any of those other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, I think that this is a huge thing in adults. And actually, I was just talking to my son today about this subject. And I asked him like what it means. And he and then I actually asked him, where does he see himself having the most trouble at being a white belt? And he said, well, in math. And so he enjoys math, and my wife is a math professor. So there's a lot of math going on in the house. And he said that right now in class, he knows everything that they're talking about. And I sort of laughed because he's in 4th grade. And you go, you know everything? and he knows that he doesn't know everything in math, but he assumes that he knows everything about, you know, let's say addition, subtraction, division. I think that they're working on algebra right now. So I think he said they were isolating variables. And the thing is that he might know what they're talking about. He might be able to do it, but then do you know everything about it? And can you understand it in a different way? And I think that that's huge. And when you cut it off, and so you hear somebody talking about, let's say squatting, right? Let's bring it to fitness, and you go, I know how to squat, and it's like, but can you squat better? Is there anything else that you can learn that will make your squat better, right? So it's like, oh, I know, get my hips below my knees, and I'm going to keep my heels on the ground, knees track over the toes, keep my my spine flat, and that's great. But now, oh, there's tempo squats, and there's speed squats, and there's accommodating resistance, and there's single leg squats, and there's overhead and front squats and zercher squats. And it's like, oh my crap, like how many different ways can I do it?
Squat for the rest of your life. There's a guy, he's one of Ido Portal's coaches. I forget his name, but he posted a video, both feet together, toes touching the wall, both hands overlapped overhead, straight elbows, squats all the way down, like to his heels and back up.
It's unreal.
So there is plenty of room for progression in one single movement.
Absolutely. And actually, like even I don't know if you've seen the knee over toes guy. So talking about for your knees, doing things like squatting on your toes and walking backwards, which it's contrary to, I guess, just typical belief, right? But it also, when you start listening to it, you go, oh, that's not necessarily contradictory. It's just a little bit different, and it's for a different purpose.
Right. Yeah. It's not squatting. It's like he's talking about jumping.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that now you could easily just go, oh, come on, like that's not how you do this. That's not how you protect your knees. Right. But in the way that you're using it, it is. And I'll tell you what, I see this a lot in nutrition, right? And actually, perfect example, man, I was working with Travis Mash, who one of the best weightlifting coaches like in the world, right? And so when I was doing the like his program, you have like an intro survey, and it was like, what do you want to do? How many hours are you willing to put in a week? Like, what are your numbers? Like all this kind of stuff. Like, where are you starting? And what do you want to know about nutrition? And at the time, I was like, I'm pretty good. I feel pretty lean and like this and that. And I'm like when I look back at the opportunity that I missed, right? So not only did I have Travis Mash working on, technique and whatever, could have been dialing into my nutrition for competition, for whatever it was. But I felt, hey, I'm pretty good. And I've read plenty of things about nutrition and I'm good. And not only was there him, there was also Adi Zucker, who now Adi Cashew, who owns like one of the biggest nutrition coaching businesses in the world, who was also working with it. And it was like, I don't have anything I can learn. And I'm like, but it all comes from, I know, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, little starch, no sugar, and keep levels to, or amounts to levels that support exercise and not body fat. And it's like, yeah, but what else is there?
Right. And I mean, you see this, it comes up all the time now with like professional athletes. And you're like, well, I mean, they're a pro athlete. What am I going to teach them? And then you see they're like downing a bag of Skittles before every game and like only eat Big Macs. You're like, okay, there's a lot to learn. Like you can be at the pinnacle and have no clue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because everything works until it doesn't. And I think that lots of times we need to hit that spot before we go, oh, I need some help. And now it's great if you don't have to do that. If you are open to going, hey, I squat, but do you know anything about it? And taking that information and you can do with it what you want. If you hear somebody say, squat like this, squat like that, it's okay. You don't have to like believe it as truth, but you can process that information. And I think that as soon as we say the words, I know, we're limiting what we can do.
Totally. Yeah, even I mean, coaching. When you have someone drop in, this is something that I've learned, and I notice people doing it to me. If I, drop in wherever, you see someone doing something a little bit differently than you might think,
Yeah.
and you go, "Hey, here's how you need to do this," because you're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be an awesome coach and fix them." But maybe they already have an awesome coach who has them doing something a specific way for a specific reason. Maybe they have an injury, maybe they're working on a technique or whatever. So instead of going and telling them, "You're doing that wrong, let me help you," you're like, "Hey, why do you do it that way?"
Yeah.
Right now, instead of making them feel stupid or making yourself look stupid, now you've opened up the opportunity to learn something from them. Now you can learn about them, and maybe you have a new tool. And if not, maybe they're like, "I don't know, that's just the way I've always done it." Now you have an opportunity to share, and teach them something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? With something like that, actually, I think that you see that all the time on social media. You see somebody squatting or something like that, and they it might look like total crap to you. But you got to look at, number one, where are they coming from, and what is their purpose. And so, just even if you have a full video, it might be like, oh crap, that looked really bad. But it might be a really great improvement, and they might have been working on one thing. Oftentimes, here at the gym, somebody might have a total train wreck for a movement, and it's like, all right, you know what? You're doing these things wrong, but if I try and change all these things, then I'm not going to get any of them done. And so it's like, all right, here's the most important one that's going to keep you from killing yourself immediately. Let's fix that, and now do a million reps where you do that well. And if they do, so just like you said, they have a coach who's telling them, hey, guess what? You're going to squat high because everything else falls apart. But you see that they're squatting too high, and you're like, hey, I want you to squat lower, but everything falls apart.
Hmm.
And it's like, hey, let everybody have their thing, and meet them where they're at, and get more information
Yep.
before we start crucifying the messenger.
Yep. What I just saw Stan Efferding posted something last week, maybe. I don't remember what exactly it was. Maybe he was doing like heavy RDLs, which of course for heavy RDLs for him are like 600 pounds. And in the comments, he said like, "Here's what I'm doing. Online coaches, I'm not like, tell the world record power lifter how to move." He's like, "Don't even bother." And then you read the comments, and it's all people like keyboard coaches, and he's like, "Seriously?"
Yep.
So
So
great.
fantastic. I'll tell you what. So where have you found yourself regressing to that white belt? Like, so, because I think that it's often hard. It's very easy to be in the where you get some knowledge and then you just use it, and uh, you really have to try to actively seek out more information. But where do you find yourself a white belt the most? Like, or where do you keep going back to that?
Um, Man. Well, so movement wise,
Mhm.
I I do squats every day. I do squats and push-ups, sets of squats and push-ups every day, and hands over the head, like lock my thumbs and just take them slow because I can never be good enough at something like that.
Right.
Um, Recently, actually for the quarterfinals, I dropped into a gym out here that specializes in obstacle course racing,
Mhm.
and they have a few like pro athletes who train there. And now I'm split between like doing jujitsu and just getting my butt handed to me all the time. I've never done that. And going and hanging out at this gym to have all of these endurance and obstacle course racers kick my butt in a lot of things.
That is super cool. I'll tell you what, I did jujitsu like maybe like 13 times. So when my kids were doing it, there was we were paying the family, there was like a family rate, and so they were like, hey, you can roll with them, and it'll actually help them. Like now you know what we're doing. And I was like, yeah. So I would go, but I wasn't able to do it much. But the cool thing about it, I was strong. I was fit, but you would take this guy who was like 150 pounds, Sensei Jonathan, and dude, he would just like, and and it's like, all right, tap out. It was absolutely amazing. Now, like there were times that it was like, oh, I was able to muscle things, but the cool thing about jujitsu is there is no muscling when like there's a point. And if they are better, they are better. And you have to go, all right, I know absolutely nothing about this. And just teach me. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know anything about leverage. I don't know, whatever it is. I know how to move a barbell. I know how to move like I can do a pull-up. But yeah, actually just recently, just playing basketball and baseball with my kids, it was like I took a step back and I started feeling, where is the ball coming off my hand? How am I holding it? When I was teaching them, because like now it's such a different um, perspective teaching the movement. Because like you go, all right, yeah, I'm shooting and look, I'm making it.
Mhm.
But just because I'm making it doesn't mean I'm doing it well. And all of a sudden you start seeing, oh, this is what they're doing wrong. And now I'm starting to feel it. And it was like, oh, I didn't miss that because I was, off balance. It was like, dude, it totally rolled off the wrong finger. And, watching the kids throw a baseball and it's like, oh crap, I've been doing this wrong for 38 years. And the funny thing is that I heard these things, even just with the kids, what is it? Just, keeping your elbow up or don't drop your elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard that a million times and it never once made sense to me, like not the way that I know it now. Right. And there was, I was at a practice the other day and one of the, they were doing a drill where they were just running through first base, but they were using mitts because we weren't on the field. So a lot of these kids had no clue what the heck we were doing, right? They'd never touched a baseball in their life. And they put out mitts and they're like, all right, you guys are going to race to first. And they're like, there's no first base, right? And they're like, run through the bag. And the kids would like run. They wouldn't even touch it. And then they'd come back. And they're like, no, run through it, right? And it was like, oh crap. They don't even know what running through the bag means.
Right.
And we're yelling all these things. And all of a sudden it like made me take a step back and go, all right, like what do I know about baseball? What kind of things can I improve on? And even how can I explain this better? And if I'll just say, if you can't teach it, and to a kid, then you probably don't know it that well. And if you can't show it practically, you might not know it very well. So like take nutrition, and you go, I know what to do. I just need to do it. It's like maybe you understand the words and you could repeat the words, but you don't understand how it actually works. And I think that this is again just a huge problem when we're trying to make progress and we're not learning.
Right. Yeah, I think even in that coaching context, even if you're the smartest one on the field with the most experience, being able to put yourself in the mindset of brand new allows you to communicate to that person, and you, like you said, you start to see things in a new way with a fresh perspective.
Right.
I've been doing the same thing, coaching 5-year-old soccer the last few weeks. Thankfully, someone sent me kind of like a coaching plan, because the one that the park district sent is for 8-year-olds with the assumption that they've been playing since they were 4. I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. But some of the drills, they even will say like what it's for. So learning to run with a purpose, like run to that spot because like that's where the ball is. Teaching them to do some of that stuff and just like touching the ball, see what happens when you kick it.
Yeah.
Like it was, it helps to break it down into those concepts. And, unless I would never think of it that way if I did not have to get back to that mindset of like, these are the whitest of belts,
Right.
which is cool. Cause now, now I'm like, well, I want to play with soccer ball more often. And, those concepts are in my head of like running with purpose, having a target, and, getting lots of small touches, keeping the ball close, like super simple things that a coach has told me 1,000 times. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing that. Until you're the one telling someone to do it. And you're like, okay, that's what I was doing. That is not what, not what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And the funny thing, I mean, yeah, you played soccer in college, and now because you're coaching 5-year-olds, all of a sudden you understand how to play a little bit better.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, that black belt is turning white, So not only were you, let's say, hey, it's your senior year, you're the black belt on your team, right? Then you go to a 5-year-old and you're like, dude, I am so good compared to this kid. And now all of a sudden you go, oh, wait. And actually, Greg Glassman, it was, he had a quote, master the basics. And once you've mastered the basics, start again. And this time pay more attention. And, it seems like every time that you get to that point, when you get your degree, just think about if you get your bachelor's and now you're going out into the workforce and you're like, hey, I got this bachelor's. And they go, I don't care. Like, what have you done? And you get mad because you're like, dude, I did all this work. I have all this knowledge. Let me use it. And guess what? When you get your bachelor's or just whatever certificate or whatever it is that you have, you are the worst one out there. And now you have to start again. And now you're taking that knowledge. Now you have to use it. And everybody's better than you. They're like, you might have some good ideas and whatever else. You might be an attribute to a company, but they're probably going to have to teach you how to do it. And that's every time you start. That's even when you start at another business, right? So you could be doing the same job, and guess what? Now you're at a different place, and you're starting again, and that's totally okay. I think that sometimes we see that as like we're being undermined, that we don't know, but it's totally cool to not know and to keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the second part, to keep learning.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, yeah, it's definitely one thing if you don't know and you don't care.
Mhm.
But if you don't know and you're like, hey, how do I get better at this? How do I improve this? And then everybody loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, I mean, like, I remember having people join the gym where, they were a massage therapist or a chiropractor or a PT. I'm like, these people probably know way more than I do about, biomechanics and anatomy and whatever.
Right.
But regardless of how much they knew about that, they typically didn't have the education of like how to actually move. Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, I can learn a ton from them on like why all of this matters. And they can learn a ton from me on how to actually do it. One really horrifying example of someone who was not a white belt was this chiropractor. Right. There's a very wide spectrum of chiropractors from the very technical and like medical side to the energy healing that end. And this one chiropractor, we went in and heard like his spiel and whatever. One of our members' brother went there, who was in a wheelchair, and this chiropractor told him that he would have him out of a wheelchair in like 6 months or a year. What? And when I went and talked to him, uh, he was basically saying he could heal anything with chiropractic. I'm like, well, I mean, what if it's like a soft tissue issue? Like if you know, sprain your ankle. And he's like, yeah, chiropractic can handle that. And I'm like, all I was looking for was for you to say, yes, there are things that other practices would heal.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was one thing. My adjustments can fix anything. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's noticeable when someone does not have this mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like we said, it's possibly one of the biggest limiters to growing in anything. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's in performance or in in knowledge, in relationships. You know, like what can I learn about relationship? And man, I actually another great example. I remember, with I have 4 kids, and the first one, it was like when we potty trained her like in under 2 years, and I remember telling like, oh, this is all you got to do, and it was like, it felt like I was an expert because we had already done it, and then the next kid, it was like, oh, that's totally different. Like this totally doesn't work with them, or even with like discipline. Something that works for discipline for one did not work for the other ones. And it was like, oh, I have to relearn this every kid. I was like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing here if I can't learn from the first one? But every time it comes up, it's like, all right, I gotta redo it and rethink about how I'm gonna attack it. Yeah. I think that, one big thing is be the stupidest person in the room sometimes. And there's plenty of times that you can go and help people and teach people things. But even when you are teaching, it's like, all right, but what else can I learn? And even is what I'm saying correct? If I just shout it out as truth and not leave an option for something else, or even just like a small piece of it to change, then I'm really limiting myself. So
Yeah.
be the best learner in the room.
Yeah, be open to new evidence and new perspectives. Be open to questioning.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Be a white belt if you want to be your best.
Yep, be the best learner.
All right, you guys, that is Do That But Better. I'm Zach. He's Eric. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2:00. See you guys later.
All right, see ya.